How many times have you been happily cycling along, minding your own business, when all of a sudden a car passes you from behind, almost knocking you off your bike? Well, this has happened to me so often that I'm grateful to still be here to tell the tale. And let me tell you, it's terrifying. It makes me feel vulnerable, frustrated, and quite frankly, even angry. But I've thankfully discovered a simple trick that works like magic to get most motorists to yield that extra space I need to feel comfortable and not fear for my life quite as often. So hang on to the end so I can share that with you. So, hi, I'm Slow Eddie Spaghetti, and today we're talking about sharing the road, or more specifically, how close cars pass by cyclists. If you ride a bike, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. There's no need to prove my point with dramatic footage. Just thinking about it is enough to make your blood boil. And yet, when I bring this up, I often get dismissed, not just by motorists, but also by politicians and even some cycling advocates who say I'm making too much of a fuss over it. Well, a recently released study from universities and traffic institutions in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland confirms what we already know. Many drivers don't leave enough space when overtaking cyclists, and it's both dangerous and intimidating. Researchers measured the passing distance in 7,000 overtakes across 23 locations in Austria, eastern Switzerland, and southern Germany. They used laser technology to measure the exact distance drivers yielded, and the results are frightening. The closest pass registered was only 7 centimeters. That's like this much. That's terrifying. But let's look at some of the data in detail. The first column shows where the measurements were taken, and the second column, which country that was in. The numbers show the amount of measurements, the minimum, maximum, average, and median, meaning that half of drivers undercut that amount and the other half pass more generously. The good news is that at least some drivers allocate more than enough space when overtaking, but some of the numbers are shockingly low. But what else do these numbers say? The widest range of average passing distances was recorded in Austria, ranging from 95 to 150 centimeters. German drivers generally gave more space than the Swiss, but the differences were minor. The bottom line? Wherever you cycle, you could be at risk. Interestingly, different laws in these countries don't seem to make much difference, probably because they're not enforced. In Germany, motorists must leave at least 1.5 meters when passing a cyclist. Austria recently adopted similar laws, but in Switzerland, there's no minimum passing distance at all. Instead, after an accident, the courts decide if enough space was given, and close calls don't get fined at all, because, hey, if you survived, it must have been sufficient, right? Beyond legal enforcement, I've noticed that driving culture plays a huge role. From my own experience cycling through different countries, drivers in southern Germany, Austria, Switzerland, southern France, northern Italy, and Britain tend to pass much closer. Meanwhile, in northern France, Belgium, the Netherlands, northern Germany, and Spain, especially Spain, drivers are much more cautious and respectful. Why is that? Well, I haven't yet got to the bottom of this, but if you've made similar observations and have a hypothesis, let me know in the comments, please. And beyond cultural aspects, there are also psychological ones. Now, I don't think most drivers wake up in the morning thinking, today I'm going to run a cyclist off the road. At least, I really hope not. Yes, some people are aggressive behind the wheel, just as there are reckless cyclists. But most close overtakes happen either due to misjudgment or out of panic. The driver sees the cyclist as unpredictable and wants to get past as quickly as possible. And sitting in the comfy seat of a car, behind thick glass and massive pillars, you get somewhat disconnected from the environment surrounding you. So it's hard to empathize with what it feels like to have an SUV brush your elbow when blowing past you at high speeds. So this isn't necessarily malicious intent on behalf of the driver. The decision of how and when to overtake happens in a split second and is driven by instinct. Studies even suggest that gender and helmet use affect passing distance. Amazingly, female cyclists are given more space than males, likely because drivers subconsciously perceive them as more vulnerable. Cyclists without helmets also get more space, probably because drivers assume they are less protected and therefore more fragile. There's a lot we could dig into here. If you want a deeper dive into the psychology of overtaking a cyclist, let me know in the comments. You'd be surprised how deep we can go. Ultimately, the biggest factor is road design. That's also the main conclusion of the study I mentioned earlier. There's a link to it in the description if you want to check it out. Most streets aren't designed to make safe overtaking easy. And let's be honest, bikes and cars don't mix well. Even when improvements are made, change is incremental and painfully slow. So, what can we do to protect ourselves and enjoy cycling without constant fear or frustration today? Here are my 5 best tips for widening the distance you get passed by. And the last one has an instant effect, so it's a bit like magic. Number 1, speak up. You don't have to shout at drivers or point fingers, but advocating for your personal safety is your God given right. Share your experiences with friends, family, and colleagues. Explain why safe passing distances matter. If you're in an advocacy group, push this issue with decision makers. Change starts with awareness. Number 2, help spread the message. You can do so by simply hitting the like button. It helps get this video in front of more people who need to hear it. And tip number 3, subscribe and stay informed. Subscribing and staying informed will help you personally. And if you're interested in further safety tips and interbike traveling, stick around. Which leads me to tip number 4. Set an example when driving. When driving, be patient. I know that having to slow down for a cyclist can be annoying. I feel you. But think of it this way. I have to slow down all the time because of cars in my way. But I don't complain. I stay calm. I deal with it. If cyclists slow you down for a few seconds, just do the same. We can't expect people in our way to disappear into thin air or treat them like obstacles in a video game, can we? And here's a helpful observation I've made. Drivers tend to copy the behavior of the car in front. So, if you're the first car in a line overtaking a cyclist, your passing behavior sets the tone for everyone behind you. So, your contribution to safer and calmer environments reaches further than your immediate actions. And tip number 5, the magic trick: take your space. This is the game changer with immediate results. This is what you should know. Drivers give you as much space as you leave for yourself. If you hug the curb, they'll pass close. If you ride at an arm's length from the edge, or even further away if necessary, they're forced to give you more room. I know, it sounds counterintuitive. Sticking close to the side of the road seems safer, as if you're getting out of harm's way. Exposing yourself in this way takes courage and bravery. You might feel like you're being a nuisance and risk getting honked at, but let me reassure you, you won't. In fact, for those who can confidently hold their space, it makes a massive difference. And even my local police chief, traffic instructor, advises keeping towards the middle of the lane. But let's be real, I wouldn't recommend this on a busy carriageway in rush hour. And it's not for everyone. Kids, they lack the experience and cognitive skills to make good judgment. Seniors, maybe not agile enough. If you feel insecure, you might need some support to overcome your initial fear. So, as what's easily said can be a challenge, I'll make a separate video demonstrating this technique in more detail soon. At the end of the day, infrastructure is key. But until safer roads become a reality, we have to protect ourselves and raise awareness. So, thanks for watching, ride safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Ta-ra!